You okay?
he asked. She nodded. He stepped back and studied her. The dog stayed back, his eyes dark with worry, a low whine indicating his concern. She held out her hand to the dog. "It's okay, Buster. I'm fine." The dog stepped forward and sniffed her fingers before giving them a quick lick.
Hey, I wanted to do that,
the kid said, managing a shaky laugh. Michelle smiled. "Sorry, he's more my type."
You're hurt.
She raised the cane slightly.
Did you think this was a fashion accessory? I didn't notice it, really.
Which proved her theory about his poor vision. Just a flesh wound. Actually, flesh, bone, and a few tendons, but why get into the details? He looked from her to the army-issue duffels on the sidewalk, to the cane, and then back into her eyes.
Were you there?
He asked. There could have been 100 places, but she knew what he meant. She nodded.
Sweet. What was it like? Were you scared? Do you think...
He swallowed, then flushed.
Can I make it, you think?
She wanted to tell him no. That staying home, being with his friends, going to college would be so much easier, safer, more comfortable. But the easy way often wasn't the best way, and for some, being a part of something meaningful was worth any price. Her reasons for joining had been far less altruistic, but over time she'd been molded into a soldier. The trick was going to be figuring out how to find her way back. "You'll be fine," she said, hoping she was telling the truth.
A hero?
He asked with a grin, then slapped his hand against the truck.
Okay, you've done your best to confuse me by being sexy and a war vet, but I'm not going to be distracted. I want 10,000, not a penny less.
Sexy? That did make her laugh. At this stage in her life, she would have trouble qualifying as a trophy girlfriend for a man pushing 90, but hey, a compliment was always nice to hear. She turned her attention to the truck. It was in decent shape, with relatively new tires and only a few dents. The mileage was low enough to allow her to get a few years out of the thing before she would have to start replacing parts. "10's crazy high," she said. "I'm paying cash. I'm thinking closer to 8. 8! He clutched his hands to his chest. "You're killing me. You're really going to do that to a future hero?" She chuckled. "Come on, kid. We'll take her for a drive and swing by a mechanic friend of mine. If he says the truck is good, I'll give you 9.5 and you can call it a win."
You got a deal.
2 hours later, Michelle let the guy, Brandon, off at his place. A mechanic she knew on the base had given her the thumbs up on the truck, and she'd handed over an ordered stack of crisp bills. In return, she'd collected paperwork and keys. Now, as she pulled away from Brandon's house, she eyed the gray sky. She was back in western Washington state, where rain was so prevalent that a day of sunshine was the lead story on the local news. Leaving luggage in the open was taking a risk, and she dropped her 2 duffels in the back. She decided the clouds looked more lazy than ominous. Her duffels should be safe enough on the drive home. Home. It was a long way from where she'd spent the past 10 years. Blackberry Island, an actual island in Puget Sound, connected to the mainland by a long bridge, might technically be within commuting distance of Seattle, but it was a world away. The single town on the island billed itself as the New England of the West Coast, a selling point she'd never understood. Quiet, touristy, with quaint stores and a slower pace of life, the island celebrated all things Blackberry. There were silly traditions and a rhythm to the seasons that had always seemed annoyingly out of step, at least before. But what she once hadn't appreciated now seemed appealing to her. She shifted on her seat, the pain in her hip as constant as ever. The physical therapists had sworn it would get better, that she was healing quicker than they'd expected. She was already bored with the recovery process. It took too damn long, but there was no rushing her body along. She found her way to the main road, then onto the freeway. She headed north, merging with the traffic. The number of cars surprised her, their orderly progress. She was used to Hummers and assault vehicles, not SUVs and sports cars. The damp, cool air was also something she'd forgotten. She switched on the heater and wished she'd thought to pull out a jacket. It didn't matter that it was May. Seasons were for sissies. Summer came late to this part of the country. Fortunately, the tourists came early. She knew what to expect over the next 4 months, starting with Memorial Day and going through Labor Day.